Welcome to Dine and Dish, the podcast where hospitality meets real talk. I'm your host, Michelle DeMeo, Restaurant Diva, serving up the stories, strategies, and behind-the-scenes truths of the restaurant business. All right, everyone, we are back for another episode of Dine and Dish, and today's show is so close to my heart. It's everything I stand for, and leading with the next generation and women empowerment, and the future is ours. And who best to bring on but the leader in the industry? And God, we haven't seen each other in so long, but we're going to catch up on the show, and we're going to kind of go full circle because I was actually on her show years and years ago, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Laurie, are you on with me today?
I am here.
I am so excited to catch up with you. It has been, I think it's been 7 years.
Oh, it's got to be. I will never forget you. You know why, right?
What
So
with
when you had the restaurant,
yes.
I was there one night with a bunch of friends, and we were at the bar for happy hour or whatever, and you were giving away a pair of Louboutins, and I won.
I remember very, very well. So for everybody listening, we had our restaurant before COVID in Fort Lauderdale and Las Olas. And every we did like a women's night, like a happy hour kind of. We can't even call it women's night because they gave me so much hell, if you
Right.
remember about it. We had to call it like, I forget what we called it, but we raffled off Louboutins during our happy hour, and Laurie won a pair of our red
Yes,
bottoms.
and I never win anything, so it was wonderful. I got to go shopping.
Hey,
So thank you.
that's a great memory, huh?
It is a great memory. But actually, I remember you for a lot more than that.
Yeah.
You're pretty hard to forget.
Oh, so are you. So are you. Well, you know what?
Thank
That's
you.
why we're back together again on the show. So, it was so amazing to actually be on your show and talk about Recipe for Success and all the great things going on in the industry. And now you're on my show talking about what you do, shaping the future of leaders and education and empowerment. How cool is that?
It's what I love.
I know. Well, me
Truly
too.
what I love.
Me too. So let's jump right into it because I want to get into this amazing topic, but I want to get caught up with you. And yes, I am in Maryland. Yes, I'm north of you in crazy weather. Definitely not
Mm.
sunny Florida, but we're getting there. It's spring now, so the sun's actually out today, so I'm not complaining.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, it is beautiful here too. Not a cloud in the sky today.
Yeah, well, Florida typically has nice weather. If you ask Gennaro, he'll still say, "We're moving to Florida." And I'm like, "No, we're not. We're moving to New York." And I haven't even told you all that, but we are relocating. We're moving our headquarters and we're relocating north. My oldest lives in Hoboken, and we're now going to be based out of the New York area and start expanding all of our restaurants even further north, which is crazy. But yes, so we're actually moving even further north from you.
Well, I will be up there I believe we're going to go up in April and then also again in July. So I'll definitely reach out.
Oh, for sure. We definitely need to talk face to face, not just on the phone. But for everybody
Yep.
listening, let's kind of jump into our show today because Laurie, I know we're going to run out of time because Laurie and I can talk for hours, and we have such a great show. And I'm going to let Laurie talk a little bit about who she is and what she does, but she brings so much to the table in leadership and education and teaching the next generation as the president and CEO of the Junior Achievement of South Florida. But Laurie, before we jump into our topic, do you mind just introducing yourself and talk about a little bit about what you do so the listeners can get excited about our show today?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'm a mom. I have two young adult children. Patrick, who is my oldest, was born with Down syndrome. So I have a real love for special needs, the special needs population, which actually started in high school, which is funny. I think God prepares us. And then I have Samantha, who came a couple of years later. who's just finishing up her master's in mental health and working with young people, following right along in my footsteps. So, first and foremost, that is what drives me. That is why I love what I do every single day, which is empowering and preparing young people for the future. And I remember when Patrick was born, I thought to myself, how can I help him to be the most productive, responsible young adult? And so it was really all about exposure and experiences and resources. And then Samantha was born, and guess what? I wanted the same thing for her. And now, for the last 11 years, running Junior Achievement of South Florida, I get to do that with tens of thousands of young people every day. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of who I am. Grew up the daughter of a coach, turned senior vice president of a college in New York. My mom was a superintendent of high schools, actually in Baltimore City, worked her way up in New York. Ambitious, but I am a builder. I love to build things, I love to fix things and then carry them forward and just create and make a difference.
Yeah. Well, first, I have to tell you, I love that you introduce yourself first as a mom. Every podcast, every platform, whenever I'm interviewed or any story, that's probably the best title that I hold. I say that all the time. We all hold so many different titles, president, CEO, all different titles, but the most important title truly is a mom. Everything you do for your kids, be a strong role model, set great examples, teach them to be such independent, strong human beings, and great for the community and great for society. So I love that you started off by saying
Yeah.
that, because so many women, and I think, and you probably can attest to this, as you get older, your whole focus changes. I mean, when you go through like your younger years, when you're in that aggressive leadership role, you're run, travel, this and that. And as you get older, your focus and your whole clarity shifts. And it's like, yeah, your work life and everything you do to create and build is second, but your family and your kids and everything that you truly build becomes first. So it's funny to hear you say that, because I 100% agree with that. And I it's the first thing I always say.
Yeah.
My title, yeah, I'm president, I'm do this, and yeah, I have a podcast, but I'm truly a mom.
Yeah, I think you're so right. I think it's it's the hardest job, by the way. I will, and when I say hardest, I don't mean that in a negative way, but I do think that raising children, and we actually at Junior Achievement just did a parent summit and about raising resilient and confident children. And man, I'm so glad my kids are older because raising kids today with social media, with AI,
Mm,
with kids and the cost of college and more young people not wanting to go the college route, which is not a bad thing, right? It can be a good thing. I think I think mental health, right? I just think that the political climate, the environment, I just think it's a really tough time to be a parent, and my heart goes out to them really, and I want to do everything I can to support them.
yeah. Well, I have to tell you, I agree 100%. I did it. My oldest is going to be 28. My middle is commissioning from the Naval Academy in May. 22, soon to be 23. And then my little one is going to be 7 in April. So I started, oh,
Oh,
I know, right? Can you believe Vivi's going to be 7? Isn't that crazy? I mean, when you met me, she was a
oh,
little teeny baby. She was 3 months old. And I mean, there you go.
yep,
There's how long it's been. But
yep,
starting
yep,
over, I agree with you 100%. Watching the different ages of everything you go through as a mom, and now fast forward, I'm doing it again, and generationally things have changed so much, like with school. And I agree, social media, and every podcast I do, AI comes up on every talk and every conversation, because it's changing the whole world. And who knows what life's going to be like when Vivi's in college. I mean, there might not even be
yep.
college. It might be all AI. I mean, we have flying cars, we have robots. I mean, this world is just totally changing. Definitely changing.
Yep. And we all, no matter what age we are, right, including our young people, including us, we all need to be resilient and adaptable in this world because it's constant between technology. Everything is changing daily.
Yeah,
So we have to be ready.
for sure. So why don't you talk a little bit about junior achievement? So, for those listening, they might not know what that is. And is it offered at every state? How to just if you can talk through the program, because I'll tell you what, when we were there in Florida and we got involved with your events, and I mean, you have those test kitchen. There's so many cool things that junior achievement does that I don't even know if everybody knows the program. So, can you lead off with who the program is and what they actually
Yep.
do for kids and for leadership?
Yep. Well, actually, Junior Achievement is about 105 years old here in the United States. So we are a global organization, the largest nonprofit focused on um, workforce readiness, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. Those are our three core pillars. But really, what it's about is inspiring young people, right, for the future and preparing them for the future. Here in the United States, we have about 100 areas. JA South Florida is probably in the top three when it comes to revenue, budget wise, and then number of students that we serve. We have the largest JA facility here in South Florida, 60,000 square feet. And every JA is different. We all do different things. That we're all based around those three core pillars, but we use curriculum a different way. Um, I don't think you'll find this surprising, but we're kind of pioneers down here in South Florida. I get bored really easily, and so I like to
Really hard
always
to believe.
invent. Yeah, I know, I know. I knew you would love that. And so I'm always looking at, right, first of all, staying current. How do we make sure we are continuing to grow and change so we're engaging young people? We serve from elementary school all the way up to young adults. For us here in South Florida, we're really focused on preparing them for jobs, exposing them to all the different career opportunities because they have no idea, right? All the things that are out there, giving them the skills, the chance to practice and learn the skills that they will need to be successful. And then for us here in South Florida, we're one of the only ones that actually goes so far as to say, okay, we're now going to place you in jobs. So last summer we placed over 300 students into summer jobs, and we placed a little over 100 students straight into pre-apprenticeships in construction, marine, and water management. And so at the end of the day, we can train them and prepare them, but we got to get them to the point of income creation as well.
Of course.
So that's a little bit about what JA does. And we've in South Florida, we've been around for about 67 years. And I've
Wow.
been here 11. It's hard to believe.
Wow, 11 years. So, talk about
Yeah.
your path in becoming the CEO of Junior Achievement. So, what did you do prior, in terms of your leadership style and getting involved in education and building this whole confidence and resilient piece? So, how did you get introduced to Junior Achievement, and what were those steps and defining moments to kind of push you into this leadership education? I mean, obviously your children, but I'm sure there was other um, something else that changed your trajectory in terms of where you were in your life changes?
Oh, yeah. So, first of all, I'm the daughter of two educators, as I mentioned earlier. So, education was always important. My dad was more in the community outreach kind of as a dean of students, right? It was really important to him. And I can remember being 12 years old and going out into the not so great neighborhoods, right, up in New York
Mhm.
City with him and working with young people from our low income communities up in New York. And so I've been exposed to that since I was, in my early teens. And so that was probably the first thing. And then in high school, we had to go out and do community service. And so I had the opportunity then to work with children with special needs. So I think for me early on, there was always this passion for children and families, right?
Mhm.
Children who come from low income, children from DJJ, right, from our juvenile justice system who are at risk. I sit on three boards, right, all deal with that. And so those were some of the early influences, but actually I started in corporate, started in banking, went into advertising, worked for Ogilvy and Mather for about 14 years, and actually, I have to tell you, one of the reasons I always say that I am where I am was a woman that I worked for at Ogilvy, and she was, excuse me, but a biage on wheels. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say the other one, so I'll just put it at that. But she saw something in me that I didn't see, and she would throw me into projects and throw me into the deep end. And she'd just say to me, "Well, if you don't fix this, we're going to get fired." And I'm like, "I don't know anything about this." And she's like, "Well, figure it out."
Figure it out.
And guess what? I
Figured
figured
it
it out.
out.
I rolled up my sleeves, put together teams of hundreds of people. I ran a department of 200 people. I'm a problem solver. I'm a fixer. I'm a builder. And so she saw that and I didn't. And so, every time she threw me in, I was like, okay, I got to figure this out or we're both going to lose our jobs. And I think that experience with her really was key for me and really shaping who I am today. So I think those are some of the things. And then came down to Florida to get married. That lasted about 12 years. Had my two children. I stayed at home for several years. And while I was at home, I couldn't just sit around and do nothing. You know that, Michelle.
Hmm.
So I got very involved in nonprofit raising money, doing events, writing grants, all that kind of stuff, sitting on boards. And I absolutely loved it. And when I went through the divorce, I said, okay, I'm not going back. I was a chief financial officer when I left the business world. And I said, I'm not going back to that. I want to work in the nonprofit industry. And so got my first job as a VP of development and strategy and haven't looked back since. The interesting thing about JA is I didn't want the job. The woman who preceded me actually was killed tragically,
Mm.
unfortunately. And they waited about 8 months to look for a new CEO and had several people call me and ask, you need to apply. This is perfect for you. And I said, hell no. Because after someone dies, right, they become an angel, although I'm not sure that's going to happen for me. But usually, right, they become this angel. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I can't follow someone who just, right, was killed and was beloved, and everybody was still mourning and grieving her loss. But I ended up going for the interview and got the job and said to the board chair, I'll take it if you protect me for 1 year because they're going to come after me, right? Because change is hard.
Yeah.
And he did. But the organization was struggling. And I kind of worked behind the scenes. That was a really good test of patience for me because I don't move slow. I usually see what's happening and say, okay, here's how we're going to fix it. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And so coming into this job was a really great lesson in patience and bringing people along, building trust. And then here I am 11 years later. We've gone from 3 million to 12 million, from 16 people to 66 people. Our reputation is different. Our programs are different. Our credibility is different. So I'm really proud of what we've built.
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, the program in South Florida, I mean, I saw it firsthand. It was so impressive. I mean, the programs in other states and cities definitely are not at that level. And there's so many things that you can do locally to support the community. And we do that in all the restaurants. I mean, we're such a community driven group. So the whole focus of everything you did just was so close to my heart, So when I met you, I was like, oh, I love this program. I definitely want to be involved. I'm all about leadership. And, you talked about, strong women that pushed you and mentored you and motivated you to be who you are today. And that jumps right into, the next piece of empowering women and future leaders. And, the importance of confidence versus competence and, leadership stereotypes. So, what does real empowerment look like today? I mean, it's so different. We talked about generationally there, how things are changing. What do you see today in terms of, this whole leadership empowerment and, what advice do you have for young women that are really looking to get involved in the industries?
Yeah, I think you know we've we've kind of gotten to the point where we have a seat at the table in a lot of places now, right? Which we didn't
Mhm.
have years ago. But I think there's more to it than just having a seat at the table. We need to be in positions where we actually get to make real decisions, right, and have that power. I also think that as women, we do a couple of things that I think we really need to work on, and we've come a long way. So, one of those is using our voice, especially when it's uncomfortable. We are not the best advocates for ourselves, right? So when I have
Yeah.
a young woman on our team who comes to me, it just happened recently, and she was advocating to get a promotion. And after the meeting was over, one of my other executives said, "Wow, well, that was kind of brazen." She was asking, and I'm like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, I love what she did. She was advocating for herself, and that's exactly what she should do. And so I think too often we're afraid to ask for what we truly, right, think we deserve.
Hmm.
And I think the other thing is, right, having difficult conversations. We want to please everyone, right? We're mothers, we're nurturers. We want to help them. We want to help them grow. But sometimes that just isn't the case, and we need to get comfortable, right, with those kinds of things, and having those uncomfortable situations. And then I think the last thing I would say is that we need to stop apologizing. I'm a strong woman. Um, and for a long time, I think I probably, I remember thinking sometimes, oh, if I was just more soft spoken, or not as strong, not as pushy, not as, or as one of my friends would say, not as relentless. Um, but I've come to learn that, you know what? Being relentless and taking charge and taking the lead is what gets stuff done.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. If I can get stuff done and we can make children's lives better, then I'm not going to apologize for being relentless. I'm not going to apologize for having big visions, and going after it. So I think those are some of the things for real women empowerment today that we need to focus on.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I mean, one of the things I've always told my children is believe big, dream big, set lofty goals, and go for them. Because the only person that's going to make it happen is you. And you have to stand up for yourself. You have to have a big voice. You have to be well spoken. I mean, obviously, my personality. I'm not one to, to sit back and not say anything. So, I'm going to build leaders behind me, whether they want to or not.
Yep.
I mean, even today, my husband,
That's why we got along
I
so
know,
well,
right?
right?
Even today, with Vivi, in the mornings, whatever, if he's having a problem, he'll say, Mommy's coming. And then Vivi will like start running because, obviously she gets over, she's got daddy wrapped around her little finger a little bit. But when mommy comes, she has a little bit of fear in her tush. So she moves a little faster. So he'll say, Mommy's coming. Michelle, scream Vivi, just get her moving faster. But, you have to, it's really important that you stand up for yourself and you have a big voice. And, nowadays, like you said, you have the seat, you have the room, but it's what you do with it. And, being able
Yep.
to have these soft skills and being able to speak and get in front of people and having the confidence to do so is so important. So let's talk a little bit about hospitality because one of the things that you do and that I was so impressed with, even my husband was so blown away when you have all of your test kitchens and you have all of that big room that had all the storefronts. And why
Mhm.
don't you talk about industries like hospitality and how they can do a better job of training and elevating, because I mean everybody at some point has worked in the restaurant business. So can you talk about how you set the younger in terms of the training and the education piece in hospitality?
Sure. I think, well, the first step is, right, they have to know about all the jobs. I mean, so when young people think about working in hospitality, they generally think of two or three things, right? They think about waiting tables, maybe bartending, I don't know. They might think about hotel. And a lot of our kids, remember, come from our low income communities. So a lot of their mothers or aunts or grandmothers might be in, um, the area of the cleaning and housekeeping of the hotels. So I think the first thing is we need to expose them to the plethora of jobs that are in hospitality, right? And because it's such a broad field, and industry, and so there's so many roles there. So I think that's number one. The first thing that we do is expose them to as many of those jobs as possible. And then I think I think also one of the things we focus on is presentation, communication, sales. Basically, it's sales, right? You
Mhm.
have to be able to communicate with people. You have to be able to share the story, share the whether it's your product or you've got to be willing to listen to them to solve their problems. That's so much a part of what hospitality is, right?
Of
The
course.
customer service piece and the sales piece. Um, I think uh, that's would be the second step, right? Teaching them those skill sets that are out there, and then I think it's getting them out into those places, these summer jobs. If I could recommend to any employer within the hospitality interest industry is hire them. It's so interesting. I was talking with somebody the other day, and I truly believe we have a first job crisis. When I was 14, 13, 14, I was working.
Mhm.
I was getting paid,
Mhm.
right? Today, try to get companies to hire a high school student and pay them.
Yeah.
It's much
It's
more
definitely
difficult than
changed.
you might think.
Definitely changed. I mean, I was working at
Yes.
12. I mean, my father had video
Yep.
stores and I worked my tush off, between that and then I worked in retail selling clothes. I mean, I was hustling, I was working on commission. I mean, it shaped who I was. It gave me the confidence to have
Yep.
my own job and my own money and to buy my own things. And I mean, it really does shape you. And today, I also think the world's changed a bit. Parents take more care of their kids, and depending on the area, it's harder to get the younger kids to even work those first jobs. They're so involved in sports and this and dancing and competitive and Division 1 that they don't always go out and learn those skills. Like the world has definitely changed. I think we're making it too easy for some industries, but I agree. It's getting them in and restaurants and businesses, they need to hire. I mean, I think even the state changes the laws and makes it really hard for businesses to hire young kids.
Yep.
You need working papers. They can't work after 8 o'clock. And, they make so many restrictions on the business that the business says, you know what, it's easier not to hire them because I'm going to have so many restrictions and I got to hire a second person to cover what they can't do. So I think we also work against ourselves with a lot of the labor laws that are being put into place. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
balance of scales of, is it the parents or is it the state you're in with the laws? And then you have the business kind of caught in the middle. So it's talking from the restaurateur. I know we have challenges there because during the school year, if they're 16 or under, they can't work after 8 o'clock. What if your restaurant's open till 10?
Right.
You know,
Yeah, no, I think it's a combination of both, Michelle,
yeah,
right? By the way, we have 450 kids in our employment program, right? So they go through the whole year training and learning about all the different jobs. And then we go out and recruit the employers and we placed 315. If I tell you, there are parents who will come back and say, yeah, no, we're going on vacation or now there's real excuses, right? Like they have to, from our low income communities, they have to be the one that's watching their siblings during the
right,
summer.
right.
All right. So there are real legitimate reasons. But there's also some where kids are just like, yeah, no, I don't want to work. I worked all year in school. I don't want to work during the summer. I want to sleep in. I agree with you. I think we are as parents, we need to be really careful and walk that line of making sure that our young people understand, yeah, you did go to school, but it's okay. You can still work some hours during the summer because that is what's going to prepare them for the future, right? And then the
Thousand
other thing with
percent.
hospitality is there are so many jobs that are not within the restaurant serving food. There's marketing, there's accounting, there's right all of those different aspects of running a business that run across every business. And so I really think that that's another opportunity to teach young people about the industry by bringing them into those other areas where they can be mentored, right? And they can learn the business, but also have, not be on the floor of a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so those are some other ways.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, hospitality, working in a restaurant, first jobs, that is how you build confidence, leadership. You learn
Hmm.
such amazing skills that you don't learn in school. Schools, you learn the books. Okay, here's the book. This is how you do it. But when you're actually out working in a restaurant, hospitality, whatever type role, you're learning communication, problem solving, emotional. I mean, there's so many different things that you learn that become real world skills. You don't get that in school.
Yep.
So, you know, the parents out there, if you're listening, for all your listeners, you're doing yourself a disservice because look, I talk about dance all the time. I pushed my oldest into dance, and she loved it, but it taught her, the competition world, getting up on stage, introducing herself, dancing in front of judges, the skills. She's now a manager with a big accounting firm, and she does onboarding and she speaks in front of thousands of people, and she says all the time what she learned was invaluable. There's people she works with that have bigger titles than her that can't even speak as well as she does because of the skills that she learned from dance and working in the restaurants and talking to people and serving at tables. I mean, imagine, just
Yep.
taking orders, the memory and what you have to remember. So it's so valuable that, we don't want to take that away from the younger kids, whether it's lower income, whether it's high income. I mean, there's so much you can learn from that.
Yeah. By the way, so, I mean, my family was in the restaurant business. So my aunts and uncles who live right down the block. So I worked in restaurants from the time I was young, bussing tables all the way up,
Yeah.
cashier, receptionist, right? Waiting on tables, and then conflict resolution, because you're going to have people who aren't happy with the service or how the food came out or, right, a million other things. So I agree with you. I think there's so much so many opportunities in the hospitality industry. The one thing I will say about that field, especially when it comes to women, since we're talking about women empowerment, is the flexibility issue. I think that sometimes, right, there's tough hours in hospitality, I remember.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think um, people who are running those businesses may sometimes think that someone who needs flexibility may translate into they're not as committed, especially women who have children, right, and have families. And so I think we have to also look at how do we make sure that we offer that flexibility for moms, for women, but also for these young people. It's a different work ethic. The old days when you and I worked in restaurants is not what it is today. And
No.
people want
It's
flexibility and they
definitely
want
changed.
balance, right? That thing called balance that I say does not exist. I tell my people that all the time. I'm like, there is no such thing as balance, right? There's integration, how you bring all of those different things in your life together, and how you prioritize them. But there's no balance. So that's just one thing that I do see about hospitality, is that there that might be a challenge.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple things about education. Let's talk how important education is and how we can shape the next generation. And when should we start teaching leadership and money and business skills? And, what skills do you believe are missing from traditional education? Because obviously, kids go to school, but you also have this program that supplements what they're missing. So if you can talk about traditional education versus the additional education and that whole piece of teaching leadership, that would be amazing.
Well, first of all, I mean, this might not be a popular view, but I think we need to redesign our whole educational system. Our children, we have the lowest student engagement rates in our nation in a very long time. They might even be the lowest ever.
Yeah.
Um, our kids have every piece of information at their fingertips. It's all there in their phone, in their iPad, in their computer. And so to have someone stand in front of them to regurgitate information is no longer the way our kids learn. They want to do it, see it, touch it, feel it. That's why they love junior achievement. That's why our school district here in Broward wants more JA programs, right? Because our kids want to get out of the classroom and they want to see it. They want to do it. They want to build it, right? They build real companies in one of our programs, right? They're going out onto job sites in the pre apprenticeship and they're building electrical panels. right? They want to do it. It's no longer good enough to just stand up there and talk to them. Because think about it, even you and I, how many times you go to a conference or you go somewhere and there's people standing up on the stage and you have zoned out. You are on your phone, right? You're not engaged when
Mm-hmm.
they're just talking at you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we've got so much coming at us that you've got to excite us, right? And it's not just young people. I think it's all of us. But I think as far as skill sets, I think probably the one most important thing is resilience. I think our kids today, mm, I'll say this, I know mine are a little older, but I think we have to let them fail. We have to let them fall
Mm-hmm.
because things in life are not always going to be perfect and they're not going to go as well as you think they might go. And so, what are they going to do when things don't go well? How are they going to cope? How are they going to adjust? Right? I think that with technology and the world, the way it's changing so quickly, as we mentioned earlier, I think resilience and confidence, right? And they go hand in hand, but they've got to be able to bounce back and get back up.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Our education system sucks. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's so bad. I mean, to the point where we're making it so easy for the kids. I see it with Vivi. Like when my oldest was 6, she knew how to tie her shoes. She knew how to tell time. I mean, tell time. Think of this, okay? My 6-year-old knows how to tell time by numbers, not a clock. I mean, that's a crazy
Right.
thing. Like when Alana was in school, she was 6, she knew how to tell time from the face of a clock. So they're teaching them so different because no one uses a real clock anymore. I mean, I have a big grandfather clock in the hall. I every time I go by, I say to Vivi, like, what time is it? She has no idea. They don't even talk about that in school. It's just the
Yeah.
the soft skills and the basic skills that we learned years ago. They're not learning today. And we talked about AI and we talk about technology, and they're amazing tools. And I think those tools should absolutely be out for older professionals, businesses. But in school, they should learn to do it the old way, because the old way is going to set them up for real world skills and real life situations. And, when they get out, they're not going to have, hey, Siri, answer this question for me. Hey, Alexa, what's this answer? I mean, my daughter talks to Alexa like it's her best friend. It's like, what the heck? I mean, it's like an episode out
Well,
of the Jetsons. Here you go. I'm aging myself. But,
right.
with
No.
Rosie doing everything for the Jetson kids. I mean, it's just, I get that's where it's coming from. And there's going to be robots and we're going to have flying cars and we're going to be the Jetsons one day. But they have to still learn the basic skills, right? I mean, we're just making life too easy for people. Like they need to get out and, get out and make a pizza, go out and work, deliver food, go work for Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever it is. I mean, just do something that is manual so you can learn the
Yeah.
confidence and you can learn just traditional skills, business skills that you're not going to get in school.
And 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 we agree with you. So what at JA at the center when we do the simulations, there's high tech and no tech, right? So you can go to those storefronts and there will be a simulation that excites them, right? And you could put on the oculars and do that. But there's also another activity they have to do that is working together in a group, right? Designing a room, right? And moving around the pieces of furniture and how much is all that going to cost, right? To the financial literacy piece of that. So we agree. I agree with you. We mix technology because that's what's exciting to them. That's how you keep them
Mhm.
engaged. There's a leaderboard where they get scores and right. And so that makes it fun and engaging, but they have to do the other parts. I think the other thing you asked, when is too early or when should we start? Quite honestly, Michelle, I think in pre-K3 we should be teaching soft skills.
Mhm.
You can teach a 3-year-old, right, how to look you in the eye and shake your hand. You can teach a 3-year-old confidence by having them get up in front of a class, right, and talk about their pet or whatever, right? Those are the skills that can start really, really early on. And so I'm big on that. And then the other skill, I think we better make sure that we're teaching, which has to start at home, I guess, too, which is empathy and kindness.
Yeah,
Let's not forget those.
that's huge. I mean, I talk to Vivi about that all the time. Be kind, because if you're not, that's hard. You want you want to lead and you want to build leaders and you want to build aggressive girls, because obviously I have three of them and I want them to go out and be confident and be aggressive, but you want people to like you too. You have to lead with kindness and care and know how to talk to people and not talk down to people and treat people like equals. So I mean that's a huge part. And everybody we talk to, and we
Yeah.
always tell her all the time. I mean I had this conversation with her today. She got picked up from the girl who watches her every day and picks her up and takes her to dance. I guess she was mean to her. And Vivi felt so guilty. I mean, she called me on FaceTime and she was crying and she says, Mommy, I was really mean. And I said, Well, why were you mean? Well, I don't know. What did you do? I forgot. I'm like, No, you didn't forget because you're upset. So
Right.
that it affected you. So, I mean, I think we're getting through to her because she knows, like, she knew she did something wrong and she upset Wendy. But she called me and she said, Oh, Mommy, I'm really upset. I was mean. And I said, Well, why were you mean? I don't know. Okay, well, we're going to talk about that when I come home. And she's like, Well, I don't want to. I want to talk about it now. I'm like, No, we're going to talk about it face to face because, I want her to be.
Oh,
I want her to be aggressive and I want her to take charge, but I don't want her to do it and be mean and have people upset or hurt people's feelings too. So I agree with you 1,000% there. So important.
yeah. Yeah, we have to listen. And as the mom of a child with special needs, we have to show our young people that, right? Every one of them should feel like they belong. Every person should feel like they belong. And so we need to make sure that they understand that we're all not the same.
Yeah.
We all have different abilities and unique talents and different ways of approaching it, and that's okay. And that's what I mean by that empathy and that acceptance.
Yeah.
And I think our world, unfortunately, right now, in my opinion, is not the most empathetic that it could be.
No.
And so it's hard. As parents, we're trying to teach that, but then you turn on the TV and they're seeing adults, right, act like children,
Yeah.
worse than children. So it's a difficult job as a parent.
Yeah, for sure. So, talk about the future of leadership, because I'm sure your role over the last 11 years has changed so much from when you first started till today. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, education and leadership is the same, but I'm sure you've seen such a shift in terms of just emotional intelligence and younger generations and just the whole difference from 11 years till today. And then, what changes have you seen? And then, what do you see the future of leadership being?
Oof.
That's a
Well,
hard
I'll
one,
say
huh, Laura?
this. Well, it's not hard for me to answer. I just have to be a little diplomatic about how I answer it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will tell you the most exhausting part of leadership today, in my opinion, that I have seen huge changes over the last 11 years, or 20 years or whatever, is the workforce.
Mhm.
And I'm not just talking about our 20 and 30-year olds. I'm talking about at every age,
Mhm.
right? Different generations. The work ethic is just so different. Number one, the emotional intelligence, as you mentioned, is so different. It's, the maturity level, and I don't mean maturity as a person, the professional maturity. Understanding that this is a workplace, that there are results that we have to drive, right, in order to stay in existence, right? I had somebody quit a couple of weeks ago, said, I said, well, tell me why you're leaving. And she said, well, that we have job scope here. So I'm saying, okay, well, what's job scope? Because we know we have all these new terms: revenge quitting, quiet quitting, job scope. I mean, I can't keep up with all these
Job
terms.
scope.
And so I said, yeah. So I said, well, what does that mean? She said, well, my job description was one thing when I got here 2 years ago, but now there are things that are not in it anymore. And there's new things you've added. And I said, well, wouldn't you want that? Like, I would have been bored out of my mind if my job stayed exactly the same for 2 years,
Yeah.
right? I would have been looking for new things to do. And she said, well, it's okay, I guess, but if you're going to add things to my job description, you need to pay me more.
Oh, I've heard
And I,
that. Oh
I
my,
just,
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in the last couple years. And it's like, okay, but you're a general manager or you're taking on this role and you agreed. And I mean, how do you say, well, that's not my job? Or it, It's crazy. Where does that even come from? That would
Right.
never even cross my mind if I was in a role. I'm there to do my best and show. I always used to say, show up for the job that you want to be, not the job where you're at. So if you want to be a CEO, you want to be a president, you show up and you have the mentality to get to that point. I mean, how can you? I hear it all the time. Well, you didn't pay me to do that, so I deserve more money. Well, wait, what? And I think part of the problem too is, and every show we talk about this, COVID just changed. We thought the
Mm-hmm.
work ethic was bad
Yep.
before COVID. Now you have COVID, and we allowed people to stay home, and we paid them to stay home. And then it was time to go back to work, and everybody said, "Well, I don't want to go back to work. I liked how I was working."
Right.
And we would have people go to the gym, and we'd show up, to go work out or whatever. And people would be at the gym, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, my company thinks that I'm home working." Oh, well, that's perfect. I mean, it's just crazy how the
Yeah.
mentality. The work ethic is 100% not the same. Definitely.
Yeah. And then, by the way, add into that social media. So we had somebody leave a few months ago. We did everything to help this person grow. They didn't do well in the first position. We said, okay, but we see certain skill sets that maybe they would be stronger in this position. We got them coaching. We did all of these things to support them, help them grow. In the end, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Well, if you saw the stuff they posted on social media, I was I was shocked.
Floored. Yeah.
I was like, do you think you're ever going now? They didn't mention JA or me or anybody in particular, but we all knew, right? But do you think you're ever going to get a job?
Yeah.
Because if I'm an employer, I'm looking at your social media and I see you blasting CEOs and companies. Guess what? Yeah, I don't want you on my team.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because every time
So
I go,
somebody finally said that.
yeah, every time I go to hire somebody, we call Steve. He works in my office and he helps with the show, produce the show. And every time we go to hire somebody, we call him like the sleuth because he goes on social media and he finds everything about this person. I'm like, how did you even find this? But he finds everything about them. And then we're
Yeah,
like, that's probably not the right fit for us because they post stupid
yeah,
things. Like, it's social media it can make or break you. So, for everybody listening, be careful what you post because it follows you everywhere. Everywhere. It's
yeah.
crazy. So,
Yeah, so I think technology, social media, all those things have changed. COVID, all of those things have changed. And I will tell you, as leaders, the hard part is you can get sucked into all that.
yeah,
And you've got to make sure that you are focusing on the business and not the drama because it's easy to get caught up in it.
yeah. Well, you're never going to believe this, but our time is running out. Every show we get to the end, and I'm like, I
Mhm.
didn't even get to half the questions I needed, but we'll have to have you back. But before we go, we got to do some quick, I always do my lightning round at the end, quick answers. So, everybody listening, are you ready?
Uh-oh.
One leadership word.
Resilience.
Best advice you've ever received.
Mm, jump in. Don't wait to be ready.
Oh, I like that one. Uh, Coffee meeting or in the boardroom?
Coffee meeting.
Hmm. Are a mentor or a delegator?
Mentor.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
Definitely agree. And and your favorite
Oh
quote?
gosh. Oh, okay. I know exactly. It is Coach Prime, and he says, "Don't let my confidence offend your insecurities."
Oh, I love
It's
that.
my favorite.
I
Love
love
that.
that. Wow. All right. Well, for everybody listening, you know where to find me. Obviously, DMs are open. You can always find me on Instagram, through LinkedIn, on my website, restaurantdiva.com. And Lori, for everybody listening, where can they find you if they have questions about junior achievement or any of this youth groups or any type of support or they want to get involved with volunteering? Where's the best place for them to
I would
reach
say
you?
the best place, because I'm on there every single day posting about leadership and about workforce, would be on LinkedIn. So that is absolutely the best place.
Perfect. And when we actually, when our episode goes live, we'll make sure that we put the information as well for junior achievement. And Laurie, it was so amazing catching up with you. And I really hope the next time you're in town, or actually, I'll be in Florida in April, we should
Yes,
get
let me know.
together. But we need to get together face to
Yes.
face. I haven't seen you
7
in
years. I
too
know. Well,
long, way
definitely
too
send me
long.
the dates and I
I
will send you
know.
dates because I would love to catch up with you.
I would love that. And thank you so much for being on the show. It was amazing to hear everything you're doing with women empowerment. You know, I support all of this, and we got involved with junior achievement when I was in Florida, and I plan to do it again, whatever we can. And thank you so much for being my guest on the show today. And for everybody listening, that's another episode, and we'll see you
Thanks,
next week.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Are you noticing your car insurance rate creep up even without tickets or claims? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry handles the legwork by comparing quotes side by side from over 50 top insurers so you can confidently hit buy. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Jerry even tracks rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Don't settle for higher rates. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/libsyn today. That's jerry.ai/libsyn.